There's a romanticized idea of doing things in Sri Lanka.
Let me kill that right now. Abarna Suthanthiraraj.
It's a beautiful name. You're doing some beautiful things here in the country too.
Firstly, when I told them I was going to quit my job and do a charity full time, that was the first blow. So sometimes it's not just the training and the sewing machine.
Yeah.
Because what if there's enough sewing in that area?
Everyone thinks of charity in that way.
Yeah.
But what is the difference with how you're doing it?
Business is really hard. It's
Right.
not like building a toilet. If you build a toilet, the toilet's going to be there in 10 years. If you look at in Palmera, 1 in 4 of our families we work with have kidney disease because of the fertilizer in the water system. And that's when you were talking about the suicides, because somebody will say, you give me half your harvest back. And so this keeps people just in the debt cycle. They
Right.
can't get out of it. I think Sri Lanka has so much opportunity that is yet to be unleashed.
You're one of the select few that I've met that's like doing it. What have you learned so far?
What I've learned about working in Sri Lanka. Abarna Suthanthiraraj.
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah.
You're doing some beautiful things here in the country too.
So are we starting?
Oh yeah, we can totally start.
Okay, good.
So wait, first of all, were you born here in
Yes,
Sri Lanka?
I was
You were
born
born
here.
here. Interesting.
I left when I was 1 month.
Right.
So I'm an 83 baby.
Gotcha.
I'm a June 83 baby.
Whoa.
So was born and we lived in Wellawatha. So
Yeah.
my parents fled when our
Yeah.
house was the street that we were living in.
Yeah.
There was riots and
Mhm.
it wasn't safe. And so my parents made a decision to
Yeah.
flee at that time. And I was 1 month. And they had just settled here. They'd come
Yeah.
back
Ah, nice.
from London
Nice.
to settle.
Yeah.
I was born
Mhm.
and then we left.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow. The peak time of all of that conflict, or the
Mm.
start of it all.
At the start of it all.
That's wild. And for them to come back must have been a huge, huge thing for them.
It's where they really wanted to settle.
They chose.
They chose that. They were going to come back to settle here. They'd left,
Yeah.
my father had left to study. And so when they came back,
Yeah.
they'd bought the house. Dad stayed
Mm-hmm.
for an extra year because they thought that would settle.
Yeah.
So mum left to the US where her
Gotcha.
brothers were.
Okay.
And they were hoping it would pass.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it didn't, they kind of lost everything because they lost the house and they'd put all the money
Mm-hmm.
in the house. So yeah, we started again. Well, they started again.
That's amazing.
Mm.
That's a huge step forward
Mm.
for them to come back. And then, but you came here before they decided to move back here. Is that right?
No, as in, so my parents mum's passed, but now they're
Right.
in Australia.
Gotcha.
So when I told them I was going to come back here,
Mm-hmm.
firstly, when I told them I was going to quit my job and do a charity full time, that was the first blow, So I graduated in
Mhm.
finance and law, so did the typical Sri Lankan thing.
Mm-hmm.
So to then say I'm going to quit
Gotcha.
and do a charity full time was already a first blow.
Right.
And I'm going to move to Sri Lanka
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to move to Badiklo. Their everything that they had fought to do,
Yes.
for them, I guess it's hard for them
Oh,
to
yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
However,
Yeah.
the way I kind of put it to them is, they did this journey
Yeah.
for the three of us. I've got 2 siblings
Oh, nice.
and gave us so much and we have so much privilege. And what if that could have an impact that was greater than just the 3 of us?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we could now facilitate and I
Mhm.
could facilitate.
Yeah.
And so coming back was really, in honor of them as well, of what they had achieved and done and the values they had
Yeah.
instilled in us.
Yeah.
And so that softened them a little bit.
I can see that.
But it was still a shock to them.
Yeah. As you started, so you came here and then you started your organization.
No, so I started it, 20 years ago as a volunteer. Yes, it's a long time. So
Okay.
the way the story begins is I was in my final year of law school,
Mhm.
completely disillusioned,
Mhm.
as one is, as they are entering the legal sector.
Yeah.
Came back here and the tsunami had hit, the 2004 tsunami.
Right.
And I was in Klinochi at the time
Wow.
and saw a lot of the devastation.
Yeah.
And then went back to Australia and mobilized friends and families and said, let's do an event. So that's how it began.
Right.
And some Tamil by background. So as the war was going on, we kept our humanitarian and fundraising efforts going as volunteers, mobilizing people, as somebody who had gone to Australia and was working in the corporate sector and had friends in the corporate sector. There was resources we could mobilize.
Right. What did you do in the corporate sector, if you don't mind me asking?
So I started in law and then moved to kind of strategy and, you know, all these vague corporate roles.
Gotcha. But important.
But actually ended up specializing in kind of climate change work for a long time. And then back to general, what we called social strategy work, where we were working with.
This was at PricewaterhouseCoopers?
Yes, so I was at PwC and then a couple of other places. And then when 2009 happened, there was another kind of mobilization around the needs. So we started fundraising more and more.
Gotcha.
And it dawned on me around 2015 that the way we needed to work, there was an opportunity for my generation to not just continue the handout.
Yeah.
There was a real need for economic uplift. And what does that look like?
Yeah. Wait, explain to me what that is, because currently, like, everybody, like, the general idea of, like, you know, helping people is like you call it a handout, right? So what is that? Walk me through that, because like everyone thinks of charity in that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's how they've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
But what is the difference with how you're doing it?
So if you have a woman in a village, her name is Sarania, and you want to help her. So you say, you know what, I'll buy you a cow. So you buy her a cow.
Right.
But there's no vets in her area.
Okay.
And she has no way to effectively feed the cow.
Yeah.
Because the cow has to have a certain amount of feed in order to produce the right amount of milk.
Right.
And she can't access the buyer. Or maybe the buyer only comes in the morning, doesn't come in the evening. So if you don't milk the cow twice a day, the yield reduces.
Right.
So now you've given her this cow and she can only get maybe 1 liter or 2 liters out of it, which ends up becoming not an income source. It becomes just nutrition, some nutrition for her family.
Right.
So there's a lost opportunity in that. So what we do is we go into that village and we say, what would it take for a buyer to come here? So the buyer will say, we need X hundred liters. So then we look at all the other barriers that are there. Okay, so they don't have the feed, they don't have the vet, they don't have, and it keeps going. And then we spend 3 years filling in those gaps.
Right.
And so at the end of it, Saranya has her cow, but then the whole village has cows.
Amazing.
And the buyer is now there, and then another buyer comes in, and then there's another entrepreneur that's producing the feed for the cow, and they're trained on different things. And now she's milking the cow morning and night, and now we've linked her to finance, and now she's got 2 cows, 3 cows, 4 cows, and the system is now in place.
Right.
So that's one of the main ways in which we work.
Nice.
But if you take that out of a village context and just to an individual person, the same thing applies. So sometimes it's not just the training and the sewing machine.
Yeah.
Because what if there's enough sewing in that area? So it's about looking at it in a way and not just going, here's a sewing machine.
Yep.
Because then there's no ownership from that person. Business is really hard. It's not like building a toilet.
Yeah.
If you build a toilet, the toilet's going to probably be there in 5 years or 10 years. But a business, there's so many challenges. There's so many challenges. And somebody has to be able to address those challenges that are just continuous when you're not there.
Right.
That looks like working capital. Like I need to buy some material. But it also looks like the ability to negotiate when the local person comes to you and says, can you just do that on loan again and a loan again, and how they negotiate that, and financial skills, and then knowing how to access new markets so they can sell a different type of sari blouse, and knowing when to do that. So there's all these things that stand in the way.
So you're also equipping them to have to think about the solutions for themselves at the same time, right?
And that takes a long time.
It does.
Because the people with whom we work have been in such vulnerability, and so much of that kind of frontal executive functioning has shut down.
Yeah.
And so they're in survival mode. They're in day-to-day mode.
Right.
And now you're trying to get forward planning.
Yes.
And that's a journey. And so what it takes is, in the way we work, a lot of awareness and tools to bring people out of that and develop that executive functioning and the way to plan and the way to think and the way to be engaged. Yeah. And so we are in communities for 3 to 5 years.
Right.
We will work with each family minimum 2 years.
How many what specific communities are you in right now? What regions of Sri Lanka?
So right now we're in Badala, Polonnaruwa, Anuradhapura. We are in the north, we're in Klinuchi, Mullaitivu, and in the east, we're in Badiklo.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then in Colombo, we work with a community of sex workers who we are transitioning out of the industry and who are there because of poverty.
Right. So do you see a commonality into the way all of these areas that you're involved in? Do you see a similarity, of like how they think? Is it all the same?
You know, the way people think is a product of the context in which they find themselves in. And because we are working with people with vulnerability, their context tends to be similar. You know, they're disempowered, they've been left out, they are doing everything they can. Yeah. And for some families, it's just too much. Yeah. And some families, there's this resilience and they're able to continue. Yep. So there is a similarity in the way people think. Yeah. One's ability to be able to forward plan and come out of that survival mode. Yeah. You know, we use this term, they're a necessity entrepreneur, that they would love a job. Right. They would love for somebody just to pay them a daily rate every day, but they don't have that ability to access those types of work. So by necessity, they have to start their own business. And that means they have to have certain skills that they don't have, but their context is so challenging. You know, violence is always present in some ways, just deep financial challenge, powerlessness, lack of access and ability to have communicate with people in a way that people will take them seriously and say, this is really important, I've got to solve this. Yeah. So, and then this is years and years and years of this, and then an acceptance of this. Yeah. So this means that how they think, that there's a similarity now between everyone that we're working with. Gotcha. And how, so I never asked you what the name of your organization is. You've called it Palmera. Yes. So we've named the organization Palmera. And the inspiration for that was, as I was kind of, and this was in 2004, as we were on the kind of the back of as a tsunami had hit and we were on the back of a van, an open van, you know, you just see the whole north is dotted with Palmera trees. And, you know, it hit me, these Palmera trees, every part of the tree serves the community. You know, the bark for fuel, the leaves for shelter, the fruit for food. Oh my God. And never thought of that. But it just regenerates. Yeah. It never strips away to nothing, right? And I thought to myself, what if we could be like that? Nice. You know, if every part of us could serve in a way that doesn't strip us, but we can keep generating and serve those around us. So that was inspiration, and it's also kind of symbolic of the country that we work in. So when we were speaking of Sri Lanka in Australia, we wanted to come out of the political conversation, come into a different frame, right? Which was important at the time that we were working. Tell me about that, because that's something I see a lot here. Whenever we talk about an issue in Sri Lanka, the first thing that comes up is the politicians and politics. How do you navigate? What made you help, or how did you frame that you need to move out of that conversation and reframing something like that? Why is that important? In Australia, where I was brought up, there's two types of communities. There was one community that was really engaged in the political conversation, and there was one community that was doing quite well economically, but was feeling disengaged because they didn't want to engage in the political conversation, but they still had a lot to give. Right. And so it was really important that there was a space in which you could give back and feel you could do it without having a political leaning. So that's how it began. And so we were really conscious of making that distinction. It is very hard to separate the humanitarian story from the political story. Right. And so, you know, the reason we do it is so that we can keep the humanitarian work going and the development work going. But we understand that nexus is so strong. But there are so many people who can take that up
right,
and continue that work. But for us, it's important that it doesn't then create any adverse consequences on the development and humanitarian work that we do. So we made that line really clear.
That's amazing. Are you able to keep track on the progress of these areas that you've impacted?
Yes. So the way we kind of think about impact is right in the beginning. Because we have these models and we're really focused on what we do, and that's been a real blessing because we raise our own money, so we're not at the mercy of, the agenda of the next funder that's coming along. So because we raise our own funds, we can really focus our work on entrepreneurship. So our indicators are really clear, and then we actually have spent a lot of effort. So everyone who works at Palmera gets a tablet, and we've developed these apps where we then track down to the production of groundnuts that season and every cow and what they produce. So we've really spent a lot of time around that. And one of the other people that works with me is an actuariist. Is that how I say it? I think it's actuary, and there's no ist at the end of it.
We're creating words today.
Yeah, but he's a smart maths person. And so most people in charities like me, the first person they would hire is a comms person or a fundraiser. But, for me, it was a mathematician because there's so much data. And so it's really important for us to know our impact, is to know, is those cows now able to have more milk, and then families be able to sell more milk and have more income.
Right.
So it's really foundational to how we work.
Yeah.
And then we track because we're there for 3 to 5 years. And, we stay in those areas. So, and then we just move to adjacent villages. So we then do a program. So we're still connected to all these communities. We don't come and go.
Right.
So we know what's happening years on.
Right. Sri Lanka seems so small from the outside. It's a small island, but you've been on the ground and you've been to all the different parts. It is a lot larger than we think, right? With these communities,
Well, it takes a long time sometimes to get from one place to the next. So that makes it feel more distant.
Yeah.
But there's a uniqueness in every community.
Yes.
Like the east is very different to the north. And of course we have the estate areas, which I didn't mention. We also work in the estate areas. I forgot that. And then every community is different. So if you're working with women-headed households in Anuradhapura, there's a different context to when you're working with sex workers. So every community is different. And because we engage so deeply with the community, we work to those differences. And that's just the way we work. Yeah. So, and that's why I wanted to live in Badiklo. I wanted to live in the east because it is a community that I don't know. I don't know those dynamics well. I've spent a lot of time in the north, and from the east I could get to Anuradhapura quicker and then learn more about those communities.
What about Badiklo do I not know about? That you've lived on the ground for how many almost
just a bit over a year.
Wow.
Yes, it was we went from Australia to Badiklo, and my poor 2 little children. Yeah. I say poor because, they lived this Western life where, they ate
How
pasta.
Old are they?
When we came here, my daughter had just turned 5 and my son was about to turn 7.
Okay.
And so, but they're quite verbal, in the West, kids grow up quickly.
Yep.
And it was a shock. My daughter was like, curry again. We're eating curry every day. I'm so sorry. Yeah. I try to make tacos out of chapati.
Yeah.
Grill them.
Yeah.
But Badiklo is quite different from other cities, small cities, or towns, I should say, not small. Yeah. Because it's, in Badiklo, you don't get a lot of diversity of the Western foods that they're used to.
Right.
It's every shop is rice and curry or puttu or idiyappam or hoppers, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But tell that to a 5-year-old 6 months later,
right,
when they're just dying for pasta. Yeah. And then just the schooling environment is just so different for them. So what was wonderful about coming here with kids is that we had to really immerse in the daily life of in the daily life. It wasn't just my husband and I that could live in these bubbles and pockets and just move with these pockets. We did what families do. Of course, we have such privilege, and I'm very conscious of that. But we kind of went to the local parks and made friends with people, local Batacloans, and just our kids did the same thing. And so that was wonderful because we got to really experience that.
I was told that I've been to Bataclan on research of a project years ago. There was a tragic story of a young worker that left the country for a better life in the Middle East, and then things didn't really end up well and became a national news story. So I had gone in at that time. This was probably in like 2012 at that time, and the Tamil that they speak there is slightly different.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So do you speak that version of Tamil?
No. I mean, my version is, it's a version. So
I feel your pain. I know
it's a version.
Yeah.
And it is that part of my brain, like language, it's like a separate part of your brain. It's underdeveloped in me. I don't have it. Let's just say that. After all these years, my fluency is much lower than it should be.
Right.
But also a lot of the communities I'm working with have very formal ways in which they speak.
Right.
And we're talking quite technical matters.
Yeah.
So you're not just having colloquial conversation.
Right.
And so, I haven't picked it up as much as I should have. But yes, Bataclo is it's like a slightly different dialect.
What was there anything specific in Bataclo that you were working on with the community?
Yes. So we have these 3 entrepreneurship models. So wherever we are in the country, we're running these 3 entrepreneurship models. And one, as I said, is like a whole community-based, which is what I was sharing before with the story of Saranya. And then one is people who are not eating 3 times a day. They really require a one-on-one approach.
Okay.
And it's not, if you say, here's the cow and here's the vet, there's a lot more in the way.
Yeah.
And it could be because they're experiencing violence. It could be a single mother that has 4 or 5 children. There's a lot more in the way. It could be somebody has a very serious health issue in their family or some other, it's like multidimensional vulnerability.
Right. Yeah.
And so with those families, we have this approach where it's a one-on-one.
Yeah.
It's a 24-month program. It's very holistic.
Right.
And then we run this village bank concept where women get together, save, and revolve loans with each other.
Nice. There's a word for that. What do you call it? When it's a community pooling together to form like a bank, like one person has the money the next week. Are
you thinking of microfinance as the word?
In Sinhalese and Tamil, they have a word for it. I'm trying to remember what it's called.
Are you thinking of like seed?
Yeah.
Oh, ours is different from that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was just like, I remember that. My mom told me about that once.
Yeah, this is quite different.
Yeah.
This is where they're learning financial skills.
Yeah.
And there's a system in how it's not a lottery ticket. They put proposals, they save weekly, and then we find ways in how they can save together.
Yeah.
And then they want to start businesses.
Yeah.
So they put proposals on the type of business they want to start. And then as a group, they make decisions as to who will get that loan to start that business. So it's structured a little bit differently.
Right. What interesting ideas have you seen come out of, like, it doesn't have to be Bataclo, but so far from your experience working here?
When we do business ideas, you tend to find, and what we encourage is, what can you actually sell in your community?
Right.
And so, in terms of the business ideas, there's nothing ever, crazy innovative, because then no one will buy it. But even the idea of, hey, we're going to make peanut butter is pretty crazy for them, because they're like, that's something that's very different. They don't eat peanut butter over there, right? So what is innovative for one community may not seem innovative for us, but just that idea of, here, let's do this, and this is a way that we can sell, and here's a value-added product. So we see a lot of that creativity around how can I, because we do this process where we go and look through their community and say, what resources do you have here? What can you do? And we just spark all these different ideas. But ultimately, they should be able to sell it in their communities. There's no point somebody trying to sell it in Colombo, because that's quite challenging for them to then transport, organize, coordinate. We're working with quite a vulnerable community. Yeah. And so where they're at is selling in their local communities, and over time that may grow. But what's really innovative is just the ways in which they work together. So there's one of the issues that we really work on is violence. And normally that's something that people feel a lot of shame over. So they're not sharing what's happening in their home with others and their neighbors.
Right.
And in this space of these village banks, they come and, you know, we facilitate how to have these conversations.
Right.
And so now when somebody comes home and a husband comes home and he's drunk, the woman has a safe place to go. And, you know, in one story, you know, she calls the village bank leader and says, look, he's coming home. And she says, this time you wait there. Let us come to you.
Right.
And it was 10 o'clock at night and 50 women come to the front door. And so here's the man seeing 50 women outside. And so they ensure her safety. And then when he's okay, because, you know, obviously he's drunk, so keeps her safe. They keep her safe for that period. And then they speak, you know, to him and ensure how this can be resolved and the consequences if it's not. And now he's exposed to the community and to uphold his role.
Yeah.
Then that really creates a change in him.
Right.
And the dynamic of the role of women. So this is not something we teach. We don't say, okay, 50 women, you go and do this, right? And this is where that leadership, that united voice, those strengthened social relationships and what it means to now care for each other again and how to not to lean back from the trauma, but to lean into these difficult experiences that continue to happen because these communities already have so much they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And when that occurs, typically we lean back out, right? We're not going to lean in and go to the person's house where there's violence.
Yeah.
So how do you keep leaning into these things? So these are just amazing outcomes.
Yeah.
You can't put it as an indicator, but we see these stories all the time.
Predominantly in these areas is a lot of farming. What have you encountered with our farming system so far? And like, because there's a lot of suicides with farmers. There's a lot of sickness that comes out of like using particular fertilizers. And I know there's issues that they bring up in government, but I mean, you don't really see the results yet. I mean, it's a hard thing to also keep track of because like health of a farmer, it'll only show up probably like 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Have you seen anything interesting in that area?
Yeah, so as it relates to farming, you know, if you look at in Palmera, 1 in 4 of our families we work with have kidney disease.
Yep.
And that's really prevalent because of the fertilizer in the water system.
Yep.
Well, like, you know, that's one reason that has been put forth as to why that has been there. And so what we look at is over-fertilization. How do people use fertilizers in a safe way?
Right.
And then, you know, in other communities, the role of the middleman is very strong. And so in another community, you know, we meet middlemen who have these old-fashioned pots and they weigh what the farmers give them in these pots. And then when we look at it, there's steel that's put at the bottom of it, which makes the pot heavier. So when they weigh it, the farmers don't realize, but they're getting a lower price.
Right.
And so these, you know, it's agriculture has a lot of middlemen, and I'm not saying all middlemen are bad, right? But
we're not saying that
when we're looking at these rural communities where they don't have knowledge, and they don't know, I need to have my own weighing scale, you know, and how do I do that, and how do I facilitate these conversations, and just knowing that somebody's going to go to your house and tell you a price, and somebody's going to go to someone else's house and tell another price. So we have, you know, fertilization issues, then we have, you know, the role of middlemen, and then the role of predatory finance. And that's when you were talking about the suicides, because somebody will say, you know, you give me half your harvest back or half of it back in seeds, and then I'll give you the working capital. But what that looks like would end up being a 200-300% interest, but because it's done on seeds and not in cash, it's hard for people with lower financial literacy to do the maths on that. And sometimes they don't know. They'll say this is an interest, but it's actually a per day compounded interest.
Right.
But they said, we told you the interest. And so this keeps people just in the debt cycle. They can't get out of it.
Right.
And that's why village banks are so important. In the communities that we go into, there's about upwards of 20 predatory finance people, like, you know, loan providers in the communities. And through the village banks, you know, within 3 to 5 years, that at the end of it, there are no predatory finances because within their lending, they can now save
Right.
and revolve those loans.
Right.
And then we have programs where we link to banks and other programs that can stop that cycle.
Right.
And that's critical.
Right. It's very interesting to me also, like, because, in America, in the Midwest specifically, farmland is just like you're pumping in so much of fertilizer in that area just to like get that yield that you're looking for. What we forget is, yes, it's important for us with the people, but also what it does to the land, right? You basically make that arable land like it's you can measure broccoli from like the 1950s to broccoli today. It's not the same thing. The nutrition value's out the window. Has there been anything around those lines with farming where you've looked into regenerative agriculture and educating them on that front too?
Yeah. As it relates to that over farming, in these communities, they value their land so deeply and they're so connected to their own land that they don't want to do anything to harm their lands. But what happens is sometimes someone comes in and says, hey, do this type of crop in this type of seed. And that crop actually takes all the health out of their soil and they don't know that. And so a buyer will come and tell them to use this crop and this type of seed, get the profits for them. And then in the next season, they don't, their soil is not producing at the same yields. So a lot of the soil in these areas are very rich, very nutritious. They need the forest lands, such rich soils. And there's such a respect these farmers have for their own lands. Like these are their livelihoods, and so where we have to do the teaching is understanding the different types of crop varieties that are coming from different buyers that they don't know, and knowing how to understand the impact on their land. And if fertilizers or other things like this is introduced, how not to over fertilize. And also how to ensure which crops do you do rotation with to regenerate the soil. Certain crops with certain crops regenerates the soil better. So these are the type of practices that we teach. But there's such a respect for their own land that it's very easy to get adoption around these type of practices. And here in Sri Lanka, there's not that demand because it's still a lot of smallholder farming. Somebody else isn't driving their need to get a certain productivity. So if they can get enough productivity for them to eat and feed their family, and so they're not pushing themselves beyond what they think is going to harm the asset that is impacting, that they need for their livelihood. And in the West, that pressure is coming from the corporates and from that supply chain push down. And so I don't see that as much here.
It's interesting because from the research we were doing, all of these farming methods that the West is adopting now is stuff that we've been doing. Like we've been doing this way before, like chenna cultivation, all of that stuff. Like it's been done. Like it's literally documented that Sri Lanka used to do that. So it's very interesting how like slowly, day by day, month by month, year by year, we're slowly leaning towards like going back to the old ways of doing it.
And a lot of the things that are really important here in Sri Lanka, there's a real sense of let farmers have their own seeds. They should be able to produce their own seeds. So these are things that are protected a little bit here. And so you do see farmers being able to use their own seeds and not needing to use corporate seeds and then reduce their impact, their ability to have their own seeds. So some of these practices are also protected here. So Palmera, we used to raise our funds through events when we were younger, and we were young and energetic.
You're still young. People, hey.
But as we got older, that was a little bit hard for us to run. And so now how we raise our funds is other people run events. And then donate those funds to us. And so back in the day, we had a lot of events that we used to run. And so now somebody will have their birthday party and saying, hey, don't give me gifts. Just donate it here. So these are what we call do-it-yourself events, and they're wonderful because a lot of people think, know intuitively my 1-year-old child doesn't need any more gifts. Give it to somebody else. So that's been fantastic. And then we launched a Back a Family so people can sponsor a family directly. But in our program, you sponsor for 2 years and then we graduate them.
Okay.
You don't keep sponsoring them for life. Right. So that's the hand up, not the hand out.
Yeah.
So after 2 years with that funds, and it's tough work, right? But we should have graduated them to a point that they have enough income to stand on their own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And then that sponsorship then gets transferred to another family. So we put quite a high bar on ourselves to be able to do that.
Have you come up with a short version or a fast plan of how to, because sometimes I do see it's more of a brain, like there's a brain freeze moment of like you have a problem and then you look like, and corporate spaces with employees today, it's everywhere. It's not just in these areas. It's, I think, also in the cities, where you have a problem, needs to fix it. You have your employees you have them in charge of that thing, but they don't think like in the way that you do. So they would think a lot differently. How would you suggest a corporate kind of works with that? How do they work with people and meet them halfway if they don't see the solution the way the leadership sees it?
Are you asking that in relation to the community, or are you asking that in relation to how Palmera runs?
How Palmera
runs.
How do you sort that out in terms of like, you do find it hard, right? To help people think differently and solution driven thoughts. How do you tackle that? Because I feel like corporates can definitely learn from that, because the people that you work with on a day-to-day also have similar thought processes, right? Like, why didn't you show up to work on time? Because the train was late.
Yeah.
Okay, tomorrow can you fix it by coming a little bit earlier? Brain freeze.
Yeah. Staff and working with staff and then our community, because, you have staff and then staff have to then work with the community.
Yep.
This takes time, especially in the type of deliverables that we're trying to do, because we raise our money from the West. There's an expectation of how things work.
Yeah.
Can't you lift someone out of poverty in a year? Like, doesn't that just happen? So there is kind of we raise from the rich, or the privileged, and then we serve a community that's very different from the community that we raise for. So there's 2 different very expectations and ways of working. So this takes time with our staff and with our communities, and having people who are local, who understand the nuance and can continually communicate what our key messages are, like what's really important to Palmera.
Right.
We can't have 10 things.
Yeah.
We only get to have 3 things. So what are those 3 things? And how is that reinforced in everything we do?
Yeah.
So if I go to community and am in a big vehicle and, staying in some big fancy hotel, that's not going to reinforce the message of what's really important, which is community and how we work. So even the way I move and dress, I set the tone to how. So the culture starts at every level,
It's breaking from that savior complex thing, right?
Exactly. Like, it takes time. And if showing up on time means I have to show up on time, know?
Yeah.
And if I am saying to everybody, let's all work in the field every day, then I've got to make sure offices are suitable and set up in a way that they can.
Right.
And so listening to people where things are in the way, and when we've put everything in place and people are still not doing it, then having the right processes and systems in place that we can see where their strengths are. Maybe it's just about placing people in different roles, or sometimes, it's just not the right fit.
Yeah.
For some people, being on the field every day, it's hot, it's tiring. It's not the right fit for everybody to do that.
Yeah.
So it's, over the years, I've started to really understand our culture and how we get the impact, and then what the type of people we need. And with our community and creating change, that just takes time. So really good tools, having people sit next to somebody, and hiring people from those communities so that the power balance is equal. Yeah. People can have conversation, trust, and time. Everything takes time.
I like to shatter this quite often. There's a romanticized idea of working and doing things in Sri Lanka.
There's a romance.
There is a romance. Yeah.
Let me kill that right now.
Well, I would like to give I would love to give a heads up to folks that, because I do want people to come back.
Oh yeah. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't kill that idea.
No, but you have to give them the full picture, because they come with this expectancy of like, hey, we're going to do all of this. And I'm like, awesome. I'm for you. I'm here to support whatever. But you're one of the select few that I've met that's still here. That's like doing it. You're still doing, you're actually making it happen. And obviously you've gone through the roller coaster of emotions of like, dealing with people, with how systems work, how things flow. What have you learned so far?
So what I've learned about working in Sri Lanka, gosh, I have learned so many things. Because I have a very Western mindset. I lived in the West. I was educated in the West. The biggest difference, I think, is Sri Lanka is so relational.
Yeah.
It's so relational. And efficiency isn't what is...
It's not at the forefront.
It's not at the forefront, And somebody recently came here, and I met them, and they said, I'm going to start a business here.
Yeah.
And I said, and they were telling me I'm going to start in some rural area and I'm going to do this thing. And I said, so how many months are you going to be here in a year? They said, I'll just fly back. I'll just hire somebody. And so I think that, and so my suggestion to them was, why don't you then do something closer to the city? Because then you can get the talent you need to produce at the Western quality, but then the proceeds could go to those communities, even though the rural communities desperately needs businesses.
Yeah.
He's not going to get the outcome he needs, and then he's going to get frustrated and he's going to close the business.
Yeah.
He didn't like my response because what I said is, you have to be here if you're going to work in these areas.
Yep.
You have to be here. You have to train. You have to put in the hours. And sometimes you have this vision, but if you don't have the commitment of time that sits behind the vision, it's really hard to work.
Yeah.
And that's true for a lot of countries, right? You have to really deeply understand the country that you work in.
Yes.
And especially if you're going to move in more socially orientated spaces, you have to really understand. Because even though we're Sri Lankan, we're not in many ways, because we don't understand. We weren't educated here, and so it's a real learning for us to come here and not think that we have the solution, and we can just solve all the problems because we lived overseas, because we can't, and they're not going to be long term solutions.
Yeah.
And that requires you to be here and to have that experience of that and to know that.
That's such an important thing that you mentioned about relationship being at the, like, that's important, right? Because we live in a binary system in the West. And so like we're used to like 2 steps, result, done. Sri Lanka's 15 steps, maybe result, but you also gained, I guess, experience with seeing how far you can stretch as a person.
I mean, just to post a letter in Badiklo, you go to the first counter, then they send you to the second counter. You have to go through like 6 counters before you can post that letter. I mean, this is a real thing, But how wonderful that, 6 months later, I go to the post office and they know who you are.
Yeah.
And you go anywhere and they just know who you are because through the process of 6 counters, they get to know who you are.
Yeah. It's like, Abarna's here.
Yeah, and they know, everyone knows exactly where you live, and the post office, they know because they've been there once. And that's hard to appreciate when you're trying to get something done. Very, very hard to appreciate when you're trying to get something done.
Yeah.
But you just can't fight it.
Yeah.
You can't fight the system. I spent many years trying to fight it. And you have to put, there are some middle grounds you have to find at some point. But you also have to work with it and reframe.
Yeah. I like to think of Sri Lanka as, I compare it to traffic. In the West, it's like you follow the rules. Like you stop sign, you stop. Red light, stop. Green light, you go. Sri Lanka, it's a suggestion. And, driving back from the airport, it's always just like the moment where I come back and then the first thing I want to do is I want to drive. Because then I realize like there's this ebb and flow with the way we do traffic. It's this, unspoken trust of the biker that's on your left that's going to swerve in but because when you know. And so I feel like Sri Lanka teaches you that it's just a flow. It's it's this beautiful flowy river. And once you get hooked on it, once you tap into it, you're able to actually understand that there is a system. It's just a lot different to what we know.
And the rules are different, and what's important is different. And so if you try to get the same outcomes, it's difficult. So you have to redefine everything to the system.
Yeah.
And that's difficult for somebody who's come from the West, and the West just really creates very clear outcomes. And so you have to do a lot of rewiring in your own brain. And that, that was one of the real wisdoms that I got from living here.
Nice.
Which was wonderful.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I just want people to experience that as much as they can, as frustrating it may seem at the time.
But you have to be in the right place in your own life to be able to absorb that.
Oh yeah. I could see that for sure.
It's people say to me, I've always wanted to do Sri Lanka. And I was like, you will when the time is right. You will know when the time is right. You will come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. So you guys are here. You and your husband and your kids are
My
here.
two kids are
Colombo?
Here. Yes, we've now moved to Colombo.
That's amazing. And what does Palmera? What are you focusing on right now?
So economic continues to be our focus. Things are changing quickly, both in the NGO landscape and how NGOs are being received, in trade policies, and there's a lot of changes here.
Yeah.
So.
And you're connected with the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we get some funding from the Australian government as well.
Gotcha.
And so for us, you're always running to stand still in this space. So we're always running, where you have lean resources, you have communities that have a lot coming up against them. Then you have these macro changes, and our goal remains the same, to somehow ensure that family, that woman can get an income.
Yeah.
And sometimes that feels like a lot of running to stand still. And that continues to be our focus as we continue to grow and thrive. As we get the support, it's always hard to even, the wonderful thing and the challenging thing about a charity business model is you start every year with $0.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because you use the money up and you start again with $0. And then you've made all these community commitments, and nobody has to give you something, right? Because nobody's buying a product from you.
Right.
They're just donating.
Yeah.
Maybe they will. Maybe they won't that year. Right? And so because we make long-term commitments in communities, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of running to stand still.
Yeah.
But, I've been doing this for a long time. So after a while, you learn to trust the universe a little bit.
If I was to ask you, and this is something I ask almost everybody here on the podcast, when you close your eyes, and this is such a profound thing, when you close your eyes in 20 years from now, how do you see Sri Lanka? Do you have a vision of what Sri Lanka would look like?
Gosh, a vision for what Sri Lanka would look like. I think Sri Lanka has so much opportunity that is yet to be unleashed. It's just, isn't it just a place of just boundless opportunity? And so, there's a real hope that opportunity can be unleashed in a way that benefits all and serves all and can be done with harmony. But as the world around us is teaching us, it's going to take something for that to occur, especially in the moment that we are in now. Yeah. And I hope that occurs.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thought to have. Somebody asked me that a couple of weeks ago. It's like, you're doing all of this stuff. What do you see? And I said, well, shit, I didn't really think about that. Like, what is the end goal in our lifetime that we would like to see Sri Lanka in? Because everybody knows the American dream. Everybody knows whatever the Australian dream is. But like, have we actually taken the time to picture what a future Sri Lanka can look like? Right? Yeah.
And I think that, while we're not always looking at it at that level at Palmera, Sri Lanka is ultimately made up of all these individuals. And, they say we are just as strong as the least of us. And so at Palmera, we work with the least among us. And so if the least among us can feel included, not left out, powerful, then that's a real indication of where the country can be.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This has been awesome.
I appreciate it.
I learned a lot.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
How can people find out more about Palmera?
So you can go to our Instagram at Palmera Projects. You can go to our website, www.palmera.org, and on there you'll find a button called Back a Family. And that's a really simple way to just take one action. You can see the picture of the family and then you can back them. And as I said, that gives us a 2-year runway to graduate them so they can stand on their own 2 feet.
Amazing. That's how I found you, through your Instagram. Kept seeing all that content.
There you go. I'm a content machine at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.